Hello and welcome to our live Q&A with Eddie Izzard and Andy Goddard for the launch of 6 Minutes to Midnight, which is currently playing in theatres across the country and available wherever you rent your movies. I'm Rihanna Dillon and we are live from the historic Delaware Pavilion in Bexhill-on-sea, where the film, based on true events, is set. Now, before I introduce our incredible talent behind the film, let's remind ourselves of why we're here.
Is this your first visit to Bexhill?
Yes, it is.
There's been an alliance between England and Germany here for many years.
What sort of Englishman would accept a post teaching Herr Hitler's League of German Girls?
Der Führer würde sagen, dass nicht Mann ist.
Der Führer würde was sagen?
Mein Vater ist Deutsch.
I do not like surprises.
They are the daughters of the Nazi High Command. As soon as there's movement, we'll take the school.
England can be an unforgiving if you happen.
Well, to tell who someone really is.
I have a list of Nazi conspirators, English traitors.
This country is at war with Germany.
Germany can't afford girls to be captured.
Can you assure me you haven't been compromised?
I have to stop this.
My girls are not the enemy.
They're German, aren't they?
I am delighted to introduce some of the talent behind 6 Minutes to Midnight. Director Andy Goddard and the star and co-writer of the film, Eddie Izzard. Welcome.
And I should say, Andy's co-writer as well.
Yes.
Director.
Oh, I didn't realise
Yes,
this.
the three of us.
Co-writer as well.
Three amigos.
That's right, three amigos.
Yeah.
Three amigos. It's been a long time coming. How does it feel to finally be here in the town where it was all set, where you grew up?
It is very good. We've just had a wonderful sunset. This is a live situation. This is the Delaware Pavilion, which was built in '35, just before... Well, the girls would have been here. The girls in our school would have been in here. They absolutely would have. They would come to teas and dances and all sorts of things. So they would have wandered around. Obviously, the girls that we cast and not that we cast, the characters that we wrote weren't the same characters that were there. But Himmler's goddaughter was at this school. Von Ribbentrop, Joachim von Ribbentrop, his actual daughter was there, and we know that his son was being driven to Peter Ustinov's school in London in a armour-plated, do you know this? An armour-plated Mercedes with stormtroopers as guards. That was the son, so I'm pretty sure the daughter was having the same treatment because von Ribbentrop was really into status and all that kind of thing. And he was the ambassador. He was the only person, actually, who was ambassador to England, and then was later on hung after the war as a war criminal. I think in England. So there we go. Quite a nice turnaround there.
What a history, a little potted history there. I love it. Eddie, you're not only patron of this beautiful building, but also of the Bexhill Museum, where the sort of seed for the film kind of grew. Tell us about that.
Yes, indeed. I spent 11 years of my life here. My dad grew up here. My gran was born here. And so when I got a bit known, I was asked if I'd like to be patron of the museum. And I thought that was a good thing to do. And Julian Porter, the curator of the museum, he mentioned to me, you know, we used to have 26 schools in Bexhill. Now, if people watching in America, maybe in Canada, south coast of England, they could probably work out that. They might have heard of Brighton. That's a very big city, town city, and on the coast here. Hastings, Battle of Hastings, so that's where we are, right down the south. But it's a town, so 26 schools is like a crazy number. 2, 3 schools, 5 schools maybe. 26 is off the charts. Yeah. One of them was a finishing school for German girls. They were here to learn English between 32 and 39. And this is what Julian, the curator, told me. And he showed me the blazer badge, which had the British flag and the Nazi German flag, the swastika on it. And you don't want to see those two flags together. As a British person, we really don't want to. And we didn't want to back then, we don't want to now. And I just thought, whoa, there's a film in that, just in that blazer badge. And we now know that they were listening to Hitler's speeches in England and doing the Nazi salute to the radio set at the end, as all the other people on where Hitler was doing this live speech were chanting away, Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil. The girls were doing that, which is in the film. And they were going up to London and doing the same thing. So they really were getting beguiled and caught up with Hitler's twisted message about, yeah, we're going to take over the world and we're the greatest people and we can subjugate them every other country. And that was obviously a very twisted thing. And that was the foundation on which we based our film. The film is from our imagination. The story is from our imagination.
So that line, you know, as you say, you kind of blur that line between fact and fiction. Were there any other moments that you discovered in your research that you also wanted to include in the film, that you knew sort of had to be in there, any little nuggets?
The Hitler speeches, that was the main one.
The Hitler one. And Judy's character is called Miss Rockall, the governess, and that was the real name.
Frau Rockall was the woman who ran it, but Kellen Jones, our third co-writer in the Three Amigos of writing, he had this, it was either him or yourself, but they had the idea of, why don't we make the school teacher, the governess, British, and then we will travel with her journey of someone getting sucked into, beguiled by the Nazi ideas. And then Helen said, well, you could pitch it to Judi. Maybe Judi would like to play a role like this. And it's going against the grain. I think that's what Judi really wants to play, is characters who are not what people would expect her to play.
I want to come on to Judi in a bit, because there's a lot to talk about with her character. But how come you wanted to get involved in this? What drew you to this story in particular?
Well, I had a history with Kellen Jones. We'd made a debut feature together, Set Fire to the Stars, about Dylan Thomas. It was a film with Elijah Wood and Kellen, and we co-wrote it. I directed it. Kellen played Dylan Thomas. I knew we wanted to work together again, but it was finding the right project. And I bumped into Kellen, and he said that he had embarked on this journey with Eddie, and he told me about the school badge and this fascinating footnote in a kind of, and you know, we've got to remember, it is modern history. This wasn't that long ago, and this whole idea of this girls' school, and of course, when he told me about it, it just set bells and whistles off in my head, as I'm sure it did with Eddie and Kellen when Eddie introduced Kellen to the project. Who were these girls? What was this school? What was their experience of England at that time when the world was on the cusp of war? And so the idea of working with Eddie pressed a lot of buttons for me. I knew I would continue the dialogue with Kellen, and then I came on board to direct, and then got involved in the writing process. And it was just this wonderful combination of this bizarre, intriguing, mysterious, truth is stranger than fiction story, married to a pre-war wrong man thriller that kind of harked back to the kind of, I guess, Ealing Studio movies of the 40s and the 30s. So from a fanboy level, that kind of ticked a lot of boxes for us. But it was that fusion of genre and the true aspect, and, as Eddie touched upon, holding a mirror up to some of the things that are going on in the world today, which is some of the nastier elements of the 1930s are sadly with us again. Have they ever even gone away? And we wanted to sort of use our entertainment story as a front of house for a more kind of cautionary sort of message.
Well, we've talked a lot about Kellen Jones, and he was supposed to be here tonight, but unfortunately couldn't make it. So he sent a message for you both.
Hi everybody, I'm Kellen Jones. I play Corporal Willis, and I co-wrote 6 Minutes to Midnight with Eddie, Izzard and Andy Goddard. And I am gutted I can't be with you tonight, celebrating, raising a glass to this extraordinary film that we're all so proud of. I wish I could be there, but sadly I'm sure other people feel the same. We're there in spirit and thrilled that people are enjoying the film or going to enjoy the film and enjoy the fruits of everybody's hard labour. I'm really, really proud of this piece of work, as we all are, and hope you enjoy it. When Eddie first showed me the school badge and asked me to come on this journey, it was a no-brainer. I just had to say yes. I thought it's an extraordinary piece of unknown sort of British social history, and just the idea of making this as a jumping off point to an entertaining, exciting, relevant and poignant pre-wartime thriller. It was an adventure I just had to come on, and I really hope you enjoy it, and I'm really glad that people are enjoying it, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
So lovely to see Kellen there. I'm sorry he couldn't be with us. Eddie, this is your first feature. So what was it about this particular story that you thought, right, I've got all these stories in my head, but I want this one to be the first?
Well, my producing partner, Sarah Townsend, she said this one I should go first on. It is a very grabbable story. I mean, everyone has been caught up by this idea. Is this school true? Because people, I think their initial, I don't know what you think, Andy, but the initial reaction, I think, is, oh, this school can't be true. This must be fictitious. Yeah. So German girls were listening to Hitler speeches in England. Yes, they were. And they were doing the Nazi salute on the streets of London as well. We've got pictures of that in the Times newspaper, of all things, around the time of the coronation of George VI. So that's 1938. So we know this was happening, and the school started off as just German girls at a school, but it became gradually more Nazified. So there was that with that foundation there, it was just something I had to go for. There are other ideas in my head. I broke into Pinewood Studios when I was 15. I was in Bexhill at the time when I found out that Pinewood Studios existed, and I got the address, and I got all the way up there and tried to march in, but they told me to go away, and there was a second entrance, and I marched in the second entrance and got in.
Brilliant.
And Spielberg got into Universal Studios when he was 17, and I was about 15 getting in there, but he got his career going pretty damn quick. And mine is just slower to take off, more of the fine wine approach.
Well, you've been busy, you know, you've got...
Well, I had to do other things to get to this place. So this will not be the last, this is the first. And so I just need to pull all the other ideas out. But pulling the writing out for me is a harder thing for me to do, because I have another day job where I do this strange comedy, and I develop the shows in a different way. I do not write any of that. I just workshop it. And so... yeah, it's just a process I have to go through. I always start slow and then I build up. This is the way. I mean, everyone does, I'm sure. No one starts... Very few people start brilliant straight off.
Yes. So, I mean, tell me about that process that you have then. There were 3 of you writing this, so you're kind of pulling in these 3 brains to write one story. How did you collaborate on a day-to-day basis then?
I think the first drafts were written in Bexhill and Eastbourne, the twin towns along here.
Oh,
Eastbourne's
brilliant.
just along the road, where the chase sequence on the beach was all filmed. So they were written here, and then Andy came on board, and then it was finessing 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th drafts, and then when Lionsgate came on board at that point, and they said, well, you've got to adjust the ending, so we had to unpick a number of ideas and go off in different directions, and that was more Andy and Kellen working on those, and I was off. I think you were off as well, so Kellen had to do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why he's...
and then once we started filming, I had to kind of put my writer's hat down and put my director's hat on, and so Kel would be... He'd have a half day where he'd be Corporal Willis in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the day, he'd still have his kind of melted face makeup on, but he'd be tapping away on a laptop doing revisions and pages. And,
oh, wow.
You know, showing them to me by the monitor and be like, just and, yeah, you know,
like
we
flying by the seat of your pants.
Flying by the seat of our pants. Such is the nature of like a kind of small indie film like this. But was ever thus, and I kind of wouldn't have it any other way, really.
Yeah. Well, tell us about the character of Thomas, your character, and, you know, what inspired this? You know, he's a fictional character. He's a spy. He's also a teacher. He's fascinating.
I don't know why. Well, I think the key thing is that he's half English and half German, or half British and half German. And there is I'm making a slight difference. Americans may not realise this, but between the English and the Scottish and the Welsh and the Northern Irish, say, of the United Kingdom, there is separation there, as people in America would know between the North and the South and maybe the East and the West. But I like the idea of him being half British, half German, because the Germans don't trust him, he's half British. The British don't trust him, he's half German. And that's an interesting journey to travel on, because he's just left out of this whole story. He will not ever hate Germany, because he's of that, and he won't ever hate Britain. but he can see the world going right down into hell. I thought that was an interesting journey, and I don't know if I know any other film where there is a half British, half German character in the
Nothing
like a war
springs
story.
to mind.
No, so it was sitting there, and I'm someone who perform in French, German, and Spanish, so I just like the idea of grabbing hold of that, because I think if you grow up in Britain, you do think, oh, Germany is other. Germany is this dangerous... The Second World War, what happened there? But in fact, it's just a country.
Yeah.
Before 33 and after 45, it was just another European country, and we all went to war at certain times, but Hitler kidnapped the country and brainwashed, particularly the younger people, into saying, we have to murder people. That's what our right. That's what we should do, which is an insane idea. But that's... And the younger kids as well, the boys and the girls... They were really beguiled by these ideas. And they'd had by the time our story happens, 6 years of indoctrination had happened from the Nazis being in power. So that's the kind of girls that you're dealing with at that point.
Well, we're going to see some of the girls. Do you want to tell us a bit about this clip that we've got coming up?
Yes, this is the clip where I've gone along to the school, met Judi Dench, who plays Miss Rockall, the governess, and explained that I'm half English, half German, and I'm happy to come here and try and teach English to these German girls, but I'm quite uniquely suited to help here. But the girls don't know that I'm half German, and I go into their class. I'm thrown in at the deep end, so 5 minutes later, I'm teaching the girls, slightly off the cuff, and then this scene happens.
Let's have a look.
What about a story, a romantic story, about a young man who misses his sweetheart?
Is that you, Mr. Miller?
No.
Der Führer würde sagen, dass nicht manns genug ist.
Der Führer würde was sagen?
So sharp, so quick. I love him.
Well, it is. It is just one line, but it does say it all.
Makes you sit
and
up.
you go, whoa. You can just imagine them going, we just got away with the previous teacher, Mr. Wheatley. We could say anything. Everyone likes to have a coded language. I mean, kids make up languages like egg language. We had an egg language, where you put EG between.
Yeah.
Loads of kids in different parts of the world. Pig Latin, I've heard in America.
Yes, Pig Latin was big at my school.
Yeah. All these different languages so that no one could understand you. Cockney rhyming slang was in Britain. But, suddenly if I can listen in on all their conversations, that's going to be tricky.
Yeah, it's a very, very good scene. Now, when you were writing this story, was it really obvious that it should be you playing Thomas Miller?
Well, if you think about it, that's what you need to do. If you go back to Gone with the Wind, I was just watching a documentary about Gone with the Wind, and who would play Scarlett O'Hara? Who would play Scarlett O'Hara? Now, if one of those actresses, because, I mean, some really good actresses went up for it and maybe should have got it.
Yeah.
Betty Davis wanted to do that, but it wasn't going her way, so she did another one. But she was a brilliant actress. Why not just buy the property yourself and develop it? And that's what a lot of A-plus actors do. And so, in fact, any actor, if you want to have a good role, find a property. And I found this property just sitting there, which was the badge, and I started building it up from that, just like anyone else did. But I've always been wanting to develop my own story, so this was the first one. I just broke into Pinewood Studios and waited some time before I got into developing my own stories.
It's just fantastic. And also, there's so much of you, I think, in Thomas Miller with the running. So tell me about shooting all of those scenes of Eddie just legging it across the beaches and the fields.
Well, having a lead hero who runs, was it 32 marathons in 31 days?
Yeah, that was in January.
And that's just the tip of a very, very big marathon running iceberg. I've said this before, it comes in very handy when Thomas is required to be chased.
Well, you made it look good as well, because he can put up a long, is it dolly track, and the camera just tracking alongside, and then if the camera's going alongside, I'm just going to kick it. And see if the other policeman... I just want... Because sometimes you can run and it won't look like you're running, because it's not very fast. And when I do multiple marathons, it's not particularly fast, but if you're sprinting, then just go for it. So
Yeah, we had some days that was just running, especially the last day, because the last day we kind of filmed in Wales, and then we wrapped, and then there was like a hiatus where we did some editing, and then we had like one kind of, it was like a pickup day, and we came to Bexhill.
I begged you to come down. I said, can you come down? And we made it as a complete like guerrilla unit. Yeah. So Andy was still directing, but Kellen, our co-writer, became the first assistant director. Was organised everything on the radio. And I did the location managing and saying, what about this location? I was trying to pitch locations to Andy. And we used Eastbourne just over there, which is where I went to school. So when I wake up on the beach, when you watch the film, you'll see me wake up on the beach. Yes. That's the beach I played in when I was 7. Then I run up to this pinnacle of rock. It's called Pinnacle Point. And I lean over the edge. And I wasn't scared at all because I'd played there since I was 7. But people were saying, you know, that looks really dangerous, what you're doing. And I said, no, it doesn't. And then when I went, well, actually, it does look rather dangerous. So, but that was a beautiful day.
It was a beautiful day. It was like making, it was like this kind of punk guerrilla kind of stripped-down unit. Producers were making tea and coffee and sandwiches. And there was no dialogue. It was just like a silent movie, just with me shouting, run, stop,
Lucy,
come back.
Our costume designer, she was making adjustments on the costumes that night. Yeah. And I managed to cast 5 people that I met. 2 of them were kids from the school I went to. One was a teacher at the school I used to go to. And the 2 were...
Were they the cops?
Yeah, they were the cops.
The cops that were chasing
And 2 of them were chaplains, were religious chaplains. Yeah.
So you had them chasing you along the beach.
Yeah.
What a day, I mean.
Yeah, that was... Especially because I had these flashbacks from being a kid playing on that same beach and then waking up in my tuxedo on the beach and then legging it. And also, I know it's very dangerous down there because it's a slippery... You know, when the water comes in, goes in and out, there's the green algae is as slippery as hell. And if you go wham down, then that would just end of days filming or twist ankle or something. So you can see me running like as fast as I can, but carefully as I can.
I think that's when the drone overtook you. I was like, I'll make it look faster. Just shoot past it.
I'm not quite as fast as I am on the hills.
Now, we've alluded to the incredible cast. I mean, some kind of true heavyweight acting talent with the likes of Dame Judi Dench and Carla Urey and James D'Arcy, Jim Broadbent. I mean, how come you managed to just kind of get such a fantastic cast? Was it just like your dream, a writer's dream, to have these people speak your words?
It's props to the material, I think. It has to some extent.
Yes,
without sort of blowing our bugle too much. Like it did become this kind of actor bait kind of script where, people were responding to the material. So, yeah, this kind of conga line of actors just danced through the door, and it was like Carla Urey, James D'Arcy, Jim Broadbent, Judi Dench, and it was like, okay.
David Schofield.
Yeah, David Schofield, Kellen, with Kevin Eldon.
Oh, yes, Kevin Eldon is hilarious. Yeah. He's so cross.
Well, he's like Mr. Middle England, and I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so tell me about Judi Dench coming to the project, because seeing her doing the sort of Heil Hitler salute is not something that we've seen before, as you said earlier. Why do you think she was keen to take on this role and get away from some of the other roles that she's done?
There's a term called national treasure, and she hates it, and it gets laid at her doorstep, and she doesn't want it, because it kind of puts you in aspect, and, is that the word? Just puts you in a... that's where you are, like this... And she wants to be a rebel. And she's also in touch with the 16-year-old girl in her, because when I was doing Victoria and Abdul with her, I was playing Edward VII. I was dressed up as Edward VII. She's dressed up as Queen Victoria, and I was dancing to Ray Charles' What I Say, because we'd finished, we'd wrapped.
I thought you meant in the film. I was like, I don't think he was around.
But I was just doing that, and it was playing on my iPhone, and then she started dancing as well. So if you can imagine Edward VII and Queen Victoria dancing to Ray, I think that's what should have happened in life. But I actually suddenly realised, well, she's dancing like a teenage girl, because she is in tune with that, and that's what she wants to live life. She wants to work. She's a fighter, and she's great, and she doesn't use the dame title, and she likes a chocolate hobnob, and she likes a glass of champagne, and she's going to keep living life.
She also likes a flutter, doesn't she? And I heard that she likes bananagrams, playing bananagrams. And are there any other things that you know about Judi, working with Judi, that we might not necessarily be able to glean?
Well, the Racing Post was never far from set. She does like a flutter. She had a loose, wiggly tooth one day, and we were all taking bets on what day of the week it would come out. And it was hanging on for quite some time. I can't remember when it did come out, but every day she would just give it a little wiggle, and we'd be like, tomorrow, Wednesday, Saturday. Yeah, she's got a thing for bananas. She used to send you bananas.
She sent me bananas and write good luck on it. And you don't normally write good luck in performing, but she would. She wrote good luck on a banana, which I thought was great.
That's lovely. You still got it? Is it there rotting somewhere?
No, I think it's gone the way the way the bananas go. Went to Banana Grave, where some elephants were saying, "What are you doing here?" Yeah, she's just very. She's just a very young person. She's in tune with that, and she drives everything through it.
She's fantastic. And we've got some messages as well from some of your other co-stars who couldn't make it, including the very dashing James Darcy. Let's have a look.
Hi guys, I just want to say I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight at Bexhill, mainly because you didn't invite me. I'm going to assume that's because of the pandemic and not because you didn't want me. It couldn't be that you didn't want me to come, could it? We had such a good time making the film. Not Kellen, I didn't have any fun with him, but obviously with Eddie and Judi, just great. Andy, fantastic director, and I'm so happy for everyone that the film is coming out. I hope you have a fantastic evening this evening, and here's to a great success, except for Kellen. Anyone but Kellen. All right. Bye-bye.
Can I just say on that, because James was playing Captain Dre to Kellen's Corporal Willis, so they were like a partnership in it, an acting partnership. There's a kind of masterclass in how to make a scene, a shot kick, which is when you'll see it later if you're about to watch the film in America. It gets in a situation where there's a bus that shoots by, and Dre and Willis are searching for the people in this bus, and their car goes through the shot. You must have built this shot, because you just hold the camera there, and they go through the shot, and then the car backs up into the shot, and then Kellen turns and looks with this look, this very vicious look, and then behind him, James just turns and looks, and they're both these evil looks. And that was I don't know how that...
It's the way James times it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nicely timed, because he doesn't turn immediately. Yeah. But both looks are just great. And it's great that the British are playing the heavies. I like that idea, rather than, because you think, oh, well, the stock... OK, the German person will be the bad person. Carla Yuri played someone who was conflicted, which is great. And then the British are the heavies, look like they can just come in. I just love the idea of people who just come in with a pass, and they can go anywhere, do anything. Everyone's just going to back down. And that's Dre and Willis. Yeah.
Do you sort of think about that with your characters when you know, we obviously know that Kellen's character has got a past because we can see it on his face and we can see it in this kind of odd place that he's got himself into and who he's working with. So there is a backstory to him that we never find out. So how does that impact on the way that you direct him, the way that you write that character?
I suppose we like... I know when me and Kellen have written in the past, like, it's like leaving no stone unturned or leaving no one behind, you know? Like, even if someone comes on for, like, a 1-minute cameo, you know, like the couple that are bickering on the seafront, which is Judi's daughter, Finty. Then Thomas is trying to make that phone call. It's like a snapshot of that couple, and you could almost make a little short movie about that couple, you know. And so, but there's a line in the film that's quite key. Carla's character says, "It is often hard to tell who someone is, who is good and who is bad," and she's talking about Thomas Miller as a kind of route into teaching the girls anti-Semitism. But it kind of applies across the story, and again, without giving any spoilers, just in terms of you meet Dre and Willis, and so you make a judgment maybe about Willis. Whether that judgment is right or wrong, you'll have to see the movie. But every character, the duality in Thomas Miller, the conflictions in Judi's character, you know, nothing is cut and dried.
Yeah. You've also managed to make Penarth in Wales look like pre-war Bexhill-on-sea, which is absolutely gorgeous. Tell me...
And Llandudno, and...
Yes, and all of these... you know, the pier in particular?
Yes.
Yeah. I loved just the look of that. Can you tell me about how you built this kind of little mini world in Wales to make it look like pre-war Sussex?
Yeah, well, that's just testament to our incredible art department led by a production designer, Candida Otten. And even more so because sort of the story behind the curtain was we had another location somewhere else in North Wales all lined up, and at the 11th hour it fell through.
Oh, no.
It was barely 48 hours before, I think it was 24 hours. Oh. We managed to push it by a day to get another location. And we had scouted Penarth before we made the film, and then we chose this other pier. And so it was this mad scramble within like 24 hours to make Penarth work. And we didn't even know if we could get the license in for the location to get it back. So what you see was turned around very, 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 very quickly. Anyway, we had to relocate from North Wales all the way back to Penarth to make that work. So it was incredible. And not only just the speed of the turnaround, but the fact that everybody did it with such kind of, perhaps quite aptly, stiff upper lip, and you know, like a real
yeah.
sort of, okay, this is what we got to do, and this is we just get on with it and move forward. And everybody was cool under heat, and yeah, I walked on set on the morning, and there it was. It was dressed, and again, not just art department, but costume. All the extras were there. It was, yeah, it was very, you know, I can't sort of, you know, sing the praises of the crew I had and the heads of department I had on this movie, especially when you're making an indie like this, where every day counts, you know.
It's an incredible feat, actually, of filmmaking. And, Eddie, just taking you back to those very early stages of when you were writing, how did you hone in on this story of, you know, a spy, I suppose Thomas's particular story, when you have so much scope, you know, with the Nazis and the schoolgirls and everything?
Well, it's interesting, actually. I always thought that that's where it was going to go. Well, there was whispers in Bexhill that I think it was Frau Rochel was seen at a certain point, or she was a spy herself. There were whispers about what the school was and what it represented and whether spying was going on. And there was a Dr. England, bizarrely, Dr. England, who was also involved in something. Anyway, there was some strange and odd things, and of course, people would go into whispers, and as the clock ticked up from 32 all the way up to 39, people got less and less enamoured about this school full of German girls. So it was already set for a spy story on that, and so that was just I went to that straight away immediately, and it just lent itself beautifully to that. And then you can try and get in and talk. And also, the fact it was a girls' school, I think, was very important. If it had been a boys' school, it wouldn't have worked so well. Boys' school is just immediately go to violence. There are boys, they're indoctrinated, violence, that's it. Whereas girls, it's much more of a mentality adjustment. It's more psychological. It's more Picnic at Hanging Rock, which just makes it a more interesting film. Where you can take a film, it's going to be more interesting.
Which scene, looking back, are you proudest of?
I really like this. A really sort of tender scene between Thomas Miller and Gretel on the rooftop of the school. Gretel is absent in class. Thomas has already got the measures that she is sort of the runt of the litter, sort of on the edge of the pack. And she's kind of ostracised from the other girls, but she's got this. She's in some ways she's smarter than the other girls, and then he finds her and. They have this wonderful two-hander where you're reminded, and we're very keen to have these scenes where you're reminded that they're just young adolescents going through all the kind of, you know, the confusion, the turbulence that adolescents go through, and she's asking questions about Ilsa, and Thomas says to her, it's okay to be frightened, you know, and it's a very simple scene in context of the whole movie. But I think it's just beautifully acted by both Tijan and Eddie, and I really like that scene. And then, you know, then the radio scene with Hitler obviously is another one, because I think it's probably emblematic of the movie and its themes more than any other scene, probably.
Well, you've brought it up, why don't we have a look and then we can
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's have a look.
Und wenn die Großkolonnen unserer Bewegung heute Siegen durch Deutschland marschieren, dann weiß ich, ihr schließt euch nicht verloren an. Und wir wissen, vor uns liegt Deutschland, in uns marschiert Deutschland und hinter uns kommt Deutschland.
Sieg heil! 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 Sieg heil!
Tell me about everything that you were trying to fit into that scene without using any dialogue.
Well, I think Andy should tell you how that, because he shot it and he's made it into that scene. But that was one we knew that those scenes happened, and that was one that was in there from the beginning and never shifted in any of the drafts that we did. And what happened there probably did happen just up the road here, Dorset Road here in Bexhill. But yeah.
Yeah, and it was. I always like to give a scene an identity, so that as a shorthand, especially working with my cinema photographer Chris Seeger, and we knew, and it was kind of written that way. Actually, it was in the text that the scene was primarily seen from Thomas's point of view, and from his point of view, you can kind of see the dynamic, you know, in terms of Ilsa leading the charge, the other girls bowing to peer pressure, maybe not fully understanding what's coming out of the radio, but doing this thing, I'll put my arm in the air, and getting swept along more with the fervour of it than maybe understanding the meaning of it. Judi, through the love of the girls, feeling that they are proud of their nation, and that's not a bad thing, surely. And yet there is a hesitation there.
Yes.
So some tiny part of it must be questioning it. And then when she sees Thomas watching her, she kind of, you know, it's like there's a frozen moment. And then in the scene that follows, which is equally powerful, she goes upstairs and feels she has to explain herself. She's almost like an apologist for Hitler. And then you have Gretel, who is very much doing it under silent protest. And, you know, there's this beautiful connection between them, which kind of dovetails into the other scene I was talking about. So that there's this connection between, and, you know, and this sense of resignation on her that she knows she has to do this, otherwise she's going to be bullied by the other girls. It was... A lot of the scenes we shot, there's like an economy of coverage. We try to keep it really performance-friendly, but that was a scene that had to... I knew I just wanted as many editorial choices as possible in the cut because of the dynamic between Gretel and Thomas, between Miss Rakoll and Thomas, between the girls and Ilsa. It was... It felt like kind of an epic scene in context of the story. And it was one of about 3 scenes that were in the script from the get-go. When I came on board, there'd already been X number of drafts with Eddie and Kel. And that scene, and at least 2 or 3 others, were always in there, including the scene that came after. And so I felt honour-bound to not drop the ball and get it right. You know?
Eddie, how do you feel that the themes of 6 Minutes to Midnight will resonate with today's audience? And who are you hoping is going to go and see it?
I hope it can appeal to all ages. And there are some people who will not know history that well. Some people, hopefully most people know there was a Second World War, but some people don't necessarily, and they need to know that happened, because if we do not learn from our history, we are doomed to repeat it. And you would have thought 1945, well, all these ideas of extreme right, where politicians could lie overtly to get elected, to move things forward, to use violence and the threat of violence to move things forward, those far-right ideas, well, they're gone from 1945, but now they're back 90 years later.
Yes.
And what does that mean? It means that some people are really not paying attention to the past, or don't want to pay attention to the past, or even think the past, that was a good thing, they should do it again. The extreme right, here it comes again. Let's try the 1930s one more time. How did it turn out last time? Well, 60 million died. So the strapline for our film could be a lesson from history. And I do worry for humanity. I think there's slightly more goodwill than ill will in the world. I'd like there to be a lot more goodwill than ill will. But Hitler said, if you lie big, if you do the big lie, people will believe it even more than lots of small lies, which is an odd thing to say. I remember when I first heard this. But then Donald Trump went and said, I won an election that he did not win. And you looked at all the numbers, you looked at all the... he brought all these court cases and didn't win any of them. That was an example of the big lie. And a number of people in America said, let's go along with this big lie. They want to believe it, or they refuse not to believe it. It's a very odd thing. So it's a very... It's a worry for humanity, for the people that we are, 21st century, the coming of age of humanity. And our film hopefully shows a time that happened, and we must never go back to it again. The German people have now nie wieder, never again. Nie wieder, and that's what they march when the extreme right, the new extreme right, the AfD, the Alternative für Deutschland, come along and just say, well, let's try this 1930s thing again. No. And hopefully Germany can save the world, because Germany is the one country that has been there, has been to the depths of hell. And hopefully they'll never go back there, but nothing is certain.
We have some more messages from your lovely co-stars, this time headed up by the incredible Tijan Marai, so let's have a look at them.
Hi guys, sorry I can't be there tonight, but I'm out on location shooting, and I just want to say how much I love being part of this movie. And Eddie, danke für diese tolle Zusammenarbeit. Du bist eine Rieseninspiration für mich und ich habe sehr viel von dir gelernt. Oh, and I made some calls and got some of the class back together. Enjoy.
Eddie, I miss you, and I hope you enjoy the movie tonight.
Guys, thank you all for giving me the chance to work with you. It was so much fun and I'll never forget it.
Hi, I'm very sad that I can't be with you tonight, but I'm sending love and greetings from rainy Berlin, and I wish you a wonderful premiere and hope to see you all live soon.
I'm so happy everyone is getting to see the film. Thanks, guys.
Hi, Eddie. It's your favorite pupil, Astrid here. I hope you told everybody how amazing I am. Guys, I really hope you have an amazing night. I'm so stoked for the film to finally come out. Please, let's see each other soon. Sending you lots of love from Berlin. Mwah.
Gorgeous cast.
Yeah.
So much fun. And unfortunately, despite all the fun we've had tonight, that is all we've got time for this evening. Thank you so much for joining us at the gorgeous Delaware Pavilion in Bexhill-on-Sea. Thank you, all of you at home, for watching. 6 Minutes to Midnight is playing in theatres across the country, and it's available wherever you rent your movies. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you so much.